Take a breath. Welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, weekly inspiration for self-care and soft living. I am your host, Lisa Hurley. I'm a 5-time Anthem Award winner, 2nd-generation Reiki master and community builder, and I'm the author of the book, Space to Exhale. Through healing modalities like breathwork, affirmations, and meditations, I'll guide you on a life-changing journey to help you know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and create much-needed space to exhale. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hurley, and I'm here to remind us all to slow down, take a breath, say no to hustle culture, and yes to a life of ease. Before we welcome today's guest and begin our conversation, I just want to share a few thoughts with you. Here is today's exhale. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about Overdrive, about how easy it is to get caught up in doing, producing, responding, achieving, and proving ourselves again and again and again. Sometimes we become so accustomed to carrying the weight of everything that we forget what it feels like to set it all down and walk light. So because we're on a healing journey together, I invite you to ask yourself a few simple questions that I've often asked myself. Ask yourself, why am I so busy? What is the purpose of all these activities that I'm doing? What purpose are they serving? And is this busyness, all this overdrive, is it really serving my highest good? Also ask yourself, what can I release today? Maybe it's a meeting that could have been an email. I know that's true for me. Maybe it's the pressure to be everything to everyone. Maybe it is the thought that you don't, quote unquote, if you don't keep up, you will get left behind. Maybe it is the belief that your worth is measured by your productivity. Whatever comes to mind for you, see if for today you can loosen your grip on it, even if only for a few minutes, the next hour, or for a day. Because being in constant overdrive is not a healthy way to live. What works for me is Underdrive, getting off the treadmill, stepping out of the matrix, slowing down, and doing less so I can be more. So this is my invitation to you to do just that, to welcome Underdrive into your life. Because a life built on a foundation of Underdrive has room for rest, for joy, for fulfillment, and for lots of space to exhale. And that is my wish for you. So as we begin today's conversation, let's carry that thought with us. And now, let me introduce today's guest, my friend, Latrice Torres. Latrice is the founder and CEO of LeaderKeys Consulting, where she helps Black women professionals navigate career transitions and step into leadership with clarity and confidence. And ask me how I know, because she's done that for me. Yes, Latrice and I actually started out as clients and in a professional capacity. So a seasoned HR and talent leader with 22 years of corporate experience, Latrice coaches clients through role elevation, industry pivots, and executive visibility. Latrice is a contributing author to Triumph in the Trenches, Volume 3, with her chapter, 5 HR Secrets Every Black Professional Should Know. Latrice is also a TEDx speaker, where in her talk, What Happens When You Stop Apologizing for Existing, she provides a 3-step system for embracing your authenticity. Latrice, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today. You already know how excited I am, so let's get into it. Let's do it.
let's get into it. Before we get into it, we have we have to start the show. We have to ground ourselves. This is our favorite part, right, Latrice?
Yes.
Right. We're going to ground ourselves together. So, and take a few deep exhales. So, everybody just close your eyes and start feeling a little bit more relaxed. Close your eyes, shake your head a little bit from side to side, gently. Move your head a little bit back and forth. And now I want you to take a deep inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. And again, inhale and exhale. And then as we start to come back into the room, I want you to take a minute and focus on today's affirmation, which is, I am honoring my body by choosing underdrive instead of overdrive. So as I get into this conversation, and it's going to be a good one, I already know, just keep this affirmation in your mind. I'm honoring my body by choosing underdrive instead of overdrive. And so, Miss Latrice, my friend. So listen, I mentioned this a little bit earlier when I was reading your bio. So you and I started out, in a professional capacity, and very quickly, I think, fell into, a connection and a friendship that transcended the professional. And so, like looking back, like did it seem sort of like, meant to happen that we were going to become friends? Did anything about our evolution of our relationship and our friendship surprise you?
So I'm going to say no and yes in that order. I know you usually say yes and no, but I'm going to say no and yes because I'm going to unpack that for just a second. Okay. So not a surprise, because I remember literally the exact moment of meeting you. When I came to a studio with another friend who was actually your guest on the show, a live show you were doing. Came to the studio, and you came in the room after. No, this was before the recording, and walked in, and it was like we touched hands, like we went to like shake hands. Like normally a person shakes hands or hugs or something, because you know how we are. It's like we'll hug or something like that. But it wasn't. It was like you put your hand into my hand, and then we kind of like pulled each other close, and then we just held each other for like 5 minutes.
It was
know each other.
Right. For anybody else, it would have been like weirdly and uncomfortably long.
It would have been weird, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like this strange, like, oh, here you are. I found you. Like,
I know you. I know you. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was weird. So no surprise in there in terms of like knowing that, okay, this is probably going to be a person who's going to be in my life. Now, yes, it started out, we had a chat within that. I drove you home. I ended up driving you home. It was raining. Yeah. It was a mess. And you were like, I'm going to go get on my train. And I was like, train? Where you live? Like, we're not about to do that and everything. Yeah, like you had a boot on because it was one of the great toe episodes. But that's
one of my every annual toe breaking episodes.
Annual, you being nice, but yes, you were in a boot, and I was like, no, I'm gonna drive you home. And just in that ride home, I was like, okay, yeah, no. And by the end, I think you were a client by the end of just that drive. Oh, yeah. It was only about a 45-minute drive, and then you became a friend. And I think that was like that. No surprise in there. So that's why there was a no surprises. But a yes, a surprise. And I had to, I trust me, everybody, I asked Lisa's permission before I say this next part out loud, but I was surprised by our accidental marriage. And I know my husband is over here in the comments and everything, but he knows this story as well on how we accidentally got married at a photo shoot that we didn't realize until we got the footage of the video back, and we were like, did we get married? Like, this was a wedding. Like this.
I remember because I looked at the footage, it was so gorgeous, and then it was like, huh.
Yeah, it was like
walking down an aisle.
And white
right?
dresses.
We're both in flowing white dresses. We're holding. I'm like, we're married now.
Right. At some point, that's going to make some kind of content. I don't know in what way and what it would
Oh my
mean and
gosh, it
why
has
we would
to.
use it, but I don't know. It exists. There is both video and pictures of our wedding, and it was beautiful. I will say that
Mhm.
it was beautiful.
We
We
had
were able
a
to do
brilliant
it with this.
accidental wedding.
We really did. We really did. So that was the
Mhm.
surprise, but it still speaks to the closeness of still our mommies know each other, and we all
Mhm.
hang out, and we kiki together, we eat together, we break bread together, we do all of
Yeah.
those things, and you know, yeah, it's been one of the more beautiful relationships that
Mhm.
I've had in my life. So thank you for that.
Yes. Yes. And thank you too, and because we are that close, that's how we even got here to be having this specific conversation, because
Yes.
the other day, we check in a few times a week, and the other day we were talking. We actually already had a plan for what we were going to discuss for this episode. And
Hmm.
then we were talking literally, I think it was 2 days ago, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And we were both feeling just slammed, like, wait, why
Yes.
why is there so much stuff? Why are we both so busy? Why are we both feeling so tired?
Yes.
And we were actually both going through kind of like a similar period at the same time. And then you said, actually, I was thinking, I think I want to discuss Overdrive because I was so panicked this week. I just started reading that that part of
I went back
that
to your book.
chapter.
I did. I went back to your book. I pulled it out, and because I remember reading it the first time and seeing the term underdrive, and I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I was like, yes, that's the thing, and I'm forgetting. Like
Mhm.
I do want to say that I'm good at it, but I forget sometimes, and I
Yes.
found myself in overdrive, and then share that with you, and then you were like, yeah, me too. So like, it's like, this is probably a good time to talk about it.
Yeah, we need to
Mhm.
talk about it, because the thing is that's why it's a healing journey, right?
Yes.
Because it
Yes.
is ongoing, and there are
Mhm.
times where listen, I of all of us, right? We have our
Mhm.
moments where we're darn near close to like being, a monk up on a mountaintop, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
there are other times when reality kicks in, and more to the point, kicks our behinds.
Mhm.
And there are those fluctuations, those ebbs and flows. And we found ours, I don't know if we were in an ebb or a flow, or if it was I don't
Me
know, maybe it
neither.
was a tsunami, I don't know what it was, but it was not feeling good. And
No.
so yeah, we were like, okay, well, let's actually talk about overdrive and underdrive, and
Yeah.
how we're navigating it right now, how we've
Yeah.
navigated it in the past,
Yeah.
and help other people as well, because we know that we're not the only ones going through it, you know
No, no. And I
absolutely.
do want to, for just a moment,
Mhm.
do a shout out to your guest right before me. I think last week's guest, was it last week?
Yes,
Anyway,
yes, yes, Dr. Oh
Dr.
my
Day.
God.
Dr. Day. So shout out to Dr. Day, because she came on. Like, I feel like this is the right conversation to have after that conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Because part of the overdrive, like being in overdrive, but also having severe brain fog,
Hmm.
and and waking up like scattered, and because you dealt with night sweats and hot flashes all night or whatever, like
Yep.
that, all of those things, and still being overdrive is overwhelming. There's too many things that are
Mhm.
happening, so we have to be very purposeful about the underdrive and make sure that what we're doing in the underdrive refuels.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because
Mhm.
and what Latrice is referring to, for those of you who were unfortunately not able to tune in last week.
There's a
Last week
replay.
there's a replay, so go and catch that. All platforms, Spotify, YouTube, all the places. But
Mhm.
Dr. Damon Jones and I were discussing menopause and how it affects basically your brain. It literally affects your brain, and it affects
Mhm.
your capacity. And this
Mhm.
whole discussion of overdrive and underdrive is partly a capacity discussion, right? What
Yes.
are you actually able to do? And also, not just what are you able to do, because you can do all the things, but do you have to do all the things? Because
Mhm.
what you're able to do and what is healthy for you to do are not
Mhm.
necessarily the same thing, right, Latrice?
Absolutely. Even when you say all the things. It's who's defining all, right? Typically it's ourselves. Like we have decided what's in that all. And a lot of the times the all is just, it's self-imposed that we have control of pulling what's in that and what's not in that. So yeah, even that by itself.
So another question for you, like, after you read Space to Exhale, and you, of course, we've already said, we're friends and so on. So you saw the book before it was officially a book. And it was a little bit of a mess, but you saw it and you were able to see some of the beauty in it. And so when you read it, did it change anything for you in terms of your approach to life, to rest, to career? Like, did it start, I don't know, planting some seeds in your mind or your approach?
Yeah, but I also had the great advantage of knowing you and seeing you in a lot of the process, even before Space to Excel, the Great Exhale, and in that process, every time I even watch your intro, when you get to the part where it says, you have to make room to know you and be you and love you. Like, I remember the conversation where that came from, right?
Tell the folks, because let's take a little detour.
Right?
That's important, because that is the foundation of not only of the book, but the community came before the book, and our conversation came before the community.
It did. Yeah. And it was a pivotal conversation, because I remember in that conversation, we were talking, you were telling me there's I'm going to leave lots of major parts, but that's basically when you were telling me what you wanted to do, this community you wanted to build, this thing you wanted to do. It was just a thing, right? An idea. I remember sleeping on it. And then the first thing I said to you when I talked to you again, and I said, this is way bigger than I think even because this isn't a thing. This isn't a community. This is a movement. This is a mindset shift. This is a movement that is deep, that people are going to own, that Black women are going to resonate deeply in their souls and in their bones. And so if that's the place where it's going to come from, then what can you say to them that is going to put into words the deepness of that? And that's where that know you, do be you, love you came from. And even in the order that it was, you got to know yourself before you can, be yourself, but before you can really truly love yourself, right? Like, so there was, it was just such a great, and those are multiple conversations, and how that, and just being able to see that and see that evolution. By the time you got to Space to Exhale, like that writing that allowed you to tap back into your whole entire life story that I had no idea of. So I got the privilege of then seeing that, and then learning you deeper, knowing who you are now, and then the reflection. So there's just so many things about Space to Exhale that I think you do a really great job of not just it being these words that help you right now, like the affirmations and all of those things like that, but the reflection on these pivotal moments, in your life. Like, there was one that I know you weren't expecting this, but there was a moment in the book that really hit me, and it was the moment that I believe you were in a car accident. I mean, you were in a bad car accident. And but there was something you shared, and it's a small part, and then, like most people, I had to go back and read it, but it was like really significant to me for a couple other reasons. But you said, I remember when I came to, Anita Baker was playing on the radio, and when I read that, why that was significant, it was because that was, even in that moment, there was a quiet.
Yes.
Right. There was a quiet, and it's those quiet moments where the reflection truly happens of like, where am I at in this moment right now? And it sometimes it's just those little tiny things that ground you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a significant part. Mind you, Anita Baker is my father, may he rest in peace. That was his favorite artist. He loved some Anita Baker. So and then therefore I love some Anita Baker. So
Mhm.
therefore there was like some significance in there as well. But the quiet, that grounding moment,
Mhm.
those are the things and the elements inside of the book that I think resonate to anyone deeply.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, you write these things and like you honestly, like, you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
how it is going to resonate. But truly, it's a case of, and that's why you and I are doing this now. It's a case
Mm-hmm.
of the individual experience is
Mm.
actually a reflection of a universal experience.
Yes,
So I knew,
a
okay,
life experience.
right, that's it.
Mhm,
So that, back then I was like, okay, well, when I was writing, if I am going through this, I know other people are going
mhm,
through this and it will help them. And then the other day when you and I spoke, and we were both like going through, this week's experience of Overdrive, and we were like,
yeah,
okay, we need to get back to Underdrive, because again,
mhm,
you were experiencing it alone, and I was experiencing it alone. It seemed
right.
individual, and then we spoke, and it's like, oh, okay, it's actually, universal. Both of us and other people are experiencing this right now.
Mhm, 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 absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I told you I was so in overdrive that I actually
Mm.
turned to Claude AI and was like, "Hey, help me get my life together. Like, just help me with mapping out in these 5 days
Mm.
each week, even though it's usually 6 or maybe even 7 days.
Six,
But
six, six and a half,
but
7 for you,
yeah,
but okay,
right.
you can call it 5. You can call
We
it
can
5.
call it 5. We're gonna call it 5 for the sake of Claude. We were gonna call it 5. And I was like, hey Claude, so like I have 5 days. You know all the stuff I'm working on because you and I chat about it constantly.
Mhm.
So you know everything that I'm working on. I'm feeling crazy right now.
Right.
Just help me put together just what each day can look like for me to focus on. So I stop acting like I have to focus on all of these things every single day.
Mm.
And that's and I did that purposely, and that kind of helped. But I still, until you and I talked, I hadn't said out loud,
Mhm.
"I'm overwhelmed
Yeah.
and I need help." Right? And I just hadn't said it, and I think it needed to be said.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes verbalizing something like that helps you, sort of like gives you the permission to sit with it, acknowledge it, and then deal with it. And for me, it was interesting. This is another reason why Latrice and I decided to do this particular episode, because she mentioned, oh, I used Claude, and to so she has a get my life together chat with Claude. Interestingly enough, about maybe a month ago, I
Mhm,
started a chief of staff chat with ChatGPT. And those
mhm.
of you who know me well know that I have a love-hate relationship with ChatGPT, right?
Don't we all?
But,
Mhm,
right, don't we all? But for me, and I'm going to speak about myself, somebody who um, has ADHD, has autism, has depression, and postmenopausal, as Latrice mentioned at the top of the show. So all of those affect in different ways, your ability to function executively, your executive function, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
so I realized at some point, I'm like, I am drowning. I feel like I'm drowning and I need help. And so I
mhm,
reached out and I said, Chatty, I call ChatGPT Chatty, here's what I want you to do. I want you to act as a chief of staff, Six Sigma black belt. I gave Chatty various roles, and I said basically
yeah,
what you said to Claude: get my
yeah,
life together, help me
mhm,
stay on top of everything. And also an issue that I have is, again, mainly because of ADHD, is
mhm,
prioritization.
mhm.
I'm very
Yeah,
like not
everything's on fire. Mhm,
everything is on fire all the time, which is
mhm,
probably not the case, but that's how it feels. And so
mhm.
I literally don't have the ability to easily do that on my own. So
Right.
part of the role of my chief of staff chat is to help me navigate Overdrive. Part of the function of Latrice's Claude chat is to help her navigate
Yeah.
Overdrive and get back to Underdrive. Because my thing was, I realized very quickly, I'm like, I cannot continue at this pace. This is not healthy. I feel my brain feels discombobulated. It feels confused, and I need help. And there's nothing wrong with being able to say that you need help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of us stay in like this hyper independence mode, and that has its place. But asking for help and just verbalizing, hey, I need some support. That is half the battle right there. What do you think about that, Latrice?
No, absolutely. I get asked all the time, and it may be because I've been leaning into the tech space or tech enabled support space, and so I get asked this question all the time. They're like, "Well, what do you think about artificial intelligence? Do you think that is really good to that?" But the thing is that I think sometimes we lean so much on the intelligence piece that we forget the artificial part. It's an additive, right? Like you can go to it and you can add to it, but like we as humans still have to execute on things. We still are thinking through things. We still have our whole lives to consider. It will never know that. It'll never know that, and it'll never be able to do that. So is it a thing that can assist in some of the things? Like I love you give it a role. Like I need chief of staff. Like here's your role, right? And you do this and you do that, and then you have to still, as the human, execute on those things because we're still having the very human experience. So like for me, and it's not going anywhere. Like I love when people are like, oh, I don't want to get it because I don't want to use it in the data centers and everything. Like there's a million different reasons to not, but at the same time, look, we've been in the matrix. We've been in the matrix for a long. You in it. I don't care how much. If you're on here today, you're in the matrix. Like you're there. You better learn how to navigate it, use it, and put it in its place, right? Before we are all truly batteries. And that's a whole nother conversation. Matrix
I was encouraged. I don't know, maybe like a year and a half ago. I don't remember exactly, but Alexis, whom you know, encouraged me to get into it. I don't even remember what it was for. There was something that I was struggling with. And, she suggested that I ask chat. And I was like, oh, it literally had never occurred to me. But I did. And I'm like, that was really cool. Also, another thing for somebody like me is I retain things easier and process things easier if they're written down. So like you and I could have a conversation, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we're aligned. Let me tell you, by the time we hang up the phone, 50% of that is forgotten. Not that I don't still agree. I just don't remember it, frankly. If it is written somewhere, I can go back to it. I can refer to it. I can sort of ping my own memory. Oh yeah, that's what was discussed. This is what I'm supposed to do. These are my roles and responsibilities, all of that.
These note takers are the greatest thing ever invented. They are the best. They are the best thing. Yeah. And that's the point of learning to get, I like what we're talking about right now, because this is the learning to use technology to move us into the underdrive, area when we may need the assistance to do so. So, that's a strategy. It's one thing you can do, but again, it's use it as your personal assistance. You still own and control and you can roll with it the way that you need to. But I know I have purposely given it the role of, to your point, that chief of staff of like that. Help me to get to this space that I need to, that I can be the best me that I can be.
Yeah. And for me, it is great. I have like a weekly overview, and then, daily, okay, your red, yellows, greens. This is what absolutely has to happen. Prioritization, level of urgency, important and urgent, important but not urgent, doesn't even matter, cancel this, all of that. And it is immensely helpful. And I would say, and it's not that I am not, we live in nuance, right, in the world of nuance. And so am I concerned about the environment? Absolutely. Right. I would never say that I am not concerned about the environment.
Right.
I am. I am also, like many people, on the daily, in some ways, trying to survive this matrix that we're in. And, without we don't want it to become political, but let's just say things have gotten worse recently. Let's just leave it at that. Things have gotten worse recently. That also has an effect, right? The sort of broader world that you're living in, and all of that affects your mental health, your ability to cope, your level of capacity, your level of executive functioning.
Right.
All of that is all of those factors weigh into why you might be feeling like you're in overdrive. And so for somebody like me, I'm like, okay, if my choice is basically feeling like I'm drowning constantly, feeling bad about myself because I'm feeling like a failure, feeling like I'm constantly behind, and these are things that I have thought. Recently, actually, that I have thought. So I'm just saying, I'm not any perfect human being up on the mountaintop, right? But so I'm just saying, these are things as a human being that I've experienced and that I have thought, and AI in this particular role and function helps me with that. And I don't have to ask nobody for no help. If I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I want to think through something, right? Then, I don't need to wait till somebody else wakes up. Guess what? Chatty's awake, right? Quote unquote. So I found it immensely helpful. But a question I wanted to ask you, even for people like me and you, who one might say know better, right? Because both of us, in some different and some overlapping ways, focus a lot of what we do on Black women, uplifting Black women, empowering Black women, supporting Black women, and encouraging Black women to rest. And yet we still find ourselves sometimes being in overdrive. So why do you think the state of being in overdrive is so familiar? And why do we as people in general, why do you think we revert to it even when we know it's not good for us?
I think the short answer is the world's in overdrive, right? So that is the short answer to that, is that, and if you think about it, it's in every single way, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Everything is extremely accessible. Everything happens at a very fast pace. Social media has turned our attention spans to nothing, but we also can access everything at any time. Everything is constantly like this, right? Even the concept of even fast food. There are some places in some countries where you will go where you just will not find a fast food restaurant. And I always find that when you find that, there's a slower pace that is happening. Just that one thing, right, is changes so much. I actually live in a town where I think I'm at least 10 or 15 minutes from anywhere where there's a place I can drive through. And I love that.
That's great.
I love that. I love that. Right. Okay. So sometimes they get replaced by, Grubhub or DoorDash or something bringing it to me. Yeah. But you know what? They're kind of slow. Right. So I still kind of it still will slow me down. Yeah. Right. So the world is super, super fast. And even the way the information is, and every time I turn around, there's some other thing that's telling me that the thing that I'm doing was yesterday's thing and I need to now know today's thing. Right. So I think there's this spin that we're just always in, almost like a whirlwind, right? But also what happens in that whirlwind is that it picks things up. And then all of a sudden there's all of that, and then you're ducking and you're diving and you're dodging it, right? You're doing that thing and that dance. Yeah. And then and there is a point where even for us where we're good at the duck and the dive and the bobbing and the weaving, we champions, right? We're in there. There's just sometimes where it's just something we're oh wait. Right. And so I think that's when you find us who are very high functioning and we are out here preaching the good word of rest is success and all of that, right? We still find ourselves in that whirlwind because we still are living in this society where that's the norm. That is literally the norm, right? What I think is happening particularly with Black women, and right now, like we're in this, this is this Gen X, and I think what's happening is we also come from the time of, where we walked to school and we, and we researched and we have physical encyclopedias that we opened up, right? We need to know a word. There's dictionaries and thesauruses. Like I don't know if some of these kids have ever seen a real one. Like they probably look at it like a relic at this point,
Yeah.
right? So we also have that, which I think is why we're so hypersensitive to a slower time. My mom and I were joking yesterday. We were like, these kids will never understand rushing home for a phone call. Right? Like
I'm expecting to call at 5. I have to get home.
Or sitting by it, waiting for something and just sitting there, right? Yeah. Like there's that as well. So we understand that, which is why we are like proponents for the pause. But at the same time, we the reality is this is the world we exist in.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's one of the reasons why, well, you'll have to remind me how many years ago you founded LeaderKeys, but that is definitely one of the reasons why you founded it. And yes, what I love about LeaderKeys, not only the name, but its purpose is that, it has keys open doors, right? And that is what you have designed your company to do. And so on today's topic, my question is, so if Overdrive is one door and Underdrive is another, right? We've kind of touched on this, but not in detail. Where do those two doors ultimately lead? And also, is there one that we want to just lock?
Yeah, we want to lock the Overdrive door. Like that's the obvious answer. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. Even though I do feel like there's our moments where there's value in the Overdrive, right? Because you got to get something done. But I'm telling you, there's only moments of that, right? That like you really got to get something done, and you got to know how to kick it up into Overdrive to get it done. Okay, there are those moments. So I would love for it to stay locked, but I would like to also always have a master key so that I can unlock it when I want to. Okay. Yes. Because we know where that door, it leads to burnout. I don't think I have to say any more than that. It leads to burnout, period. The Underdrive door leads to so much, but I want to say in one word, it leads to self. Ooh. And above everything else, if we can get to that, then all of a sudden a bunch of other doors start to appear, and you can start walking through those as well. And yes, LeaderKeys was very purposeful. Like I had come out of 22 years of working in corporate America. I started LeaderKeys in 2020, literally as a response to my burnout. And the only thing that I could think was I need the gatekeeping's out of control. Like the gatekeeping was just for everything. Like, and I mean, it was in a workplace, it was in life. Like I couldn't even get a good restaurant recommendation, as if I was going to go to a restaurant and tell them you can't go there no more. Like it was just like a weird thing around gatekeeping, but particularly from a professional perspective, that was the thing that I just kept running. It was just doors. And I spent my whole entire career figuring out, like trying every key. It was like the janitor's keys. And I just kept, each one of these is going to unlock. And eventually, I would get in. Then I'll go through that door. And then I walk in and be like, there's another door and I still have all these keys, right? Like, so I got to figure that one out. And that was what my career was like. More importantly, I knew that was what the careers were like for everyone else. And at the time when I first started LeaderKeys, I served everyone. Of course, LeaderKeys is now pivoted where I hyper focus on Black women very specifically, because I found there are far more doors and far more keys on those janitor keys than anything else. So I want to eliminate that and start creating different versions of master keys to open up these doors. And that was the purpose of it. And literally when I first started LeaderKeys, it says we provide keys and not gates. That was the tagline to it when I first started.
I love it.
And I we still use it. I still say that out loud because I think it's still the thing, right? And until people can like really fully understand that this, the core, the center, that the leading door from Underdrive is self.
Mm-hmm.
And until you understand that, then you there's no amount of keys that are going to open up everything. But that's where Underdrive leads. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Listen, I'm just here. Listen, where's the collection plate? Because you definitely took us to church on that one. No, that was so
we appreciate the money that jingles, but appreciate the money that folds more. Amen. Okay.
Right. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yeah. But that's it. Yeah, that is it.
So, like you and me and so many other people in our circle, right? Our viewers and listeners are, they're building careers, running businesses, raising families, probably at our kind of age, caring for parents, still caring for kids, etc. Still trying to deal with burnout. And like you said, trying to remember themselves in the middle of all of that. So I know you are somebody that always you are solution oriented, if nothing else, right?
Absolutely.
So if for everybody who is watching and listening today, if you could provide them with like one permission slip this week in terms of overdrive versus underdrive, what would that permission slip say?
So it's so funny because my brain fog is kicking in. I had a really good answer to this, but it's going to come. Hold on. It's going to come.
That's all right.
The permission slip. I was like, make sure you ask this question because I got a good answer. And then here I am like.
You're like, But that's okay. Listen.
I half the answer is here. On that permission slip would definitely be naps without guilt. So guilt-free naps. And I know that sounds trivial, but it's not. Like if your body and mind is not rested, it all collapses. It's like the laptop, right? Like you can put it in, you can plug it up and everything, you unplug it and you take it, you go around, you're on it and everything. Our bodies function the same way. That battery just depletes. Eventually it will just shut down. But the first thing that happens is that it dims. You know how your computer
dims. It dims and then it flickers every now and then.
Okay, right. Like that's what we do as well. Like we dim and then we flicker. So but I say guilt-free naps because like you, there's times where I'm spending and where it's like I have done everything, but I also had done nothing. Like that's like the self-talk, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait, like I need some moments. So like for me, it is a nap without guilt, and it could just be that power nap. It only has to be like an hour or something like that. You set the timer, you go in, and you really go down. Like you can't say I'm going to take a nap and then start doom scrolling TikTok. Like you can't do that. Like
you have to actually close your eyes.
You got to close your eyes and you got to go. Right. And then you regret. So that's one thing. As a part of that, there's like a PS up underneath that says as many as you want. Like you have permission to alter the number. It's not just it's naps with an S, right? If you absolutely
yes.
Right. So that's one thing. The other thing, and again, I'm all about solutions and action. The other thing is actually setting intention. So I actually want everyone who is on this call right now to pick up their phone. You might even be watching this on your phone, but I want you to pick up your phone. And what I want you to do is I want you to actually schedule a reoccurring a notice, meeting, reminder, whatever you need to do. But basically, this is going to be for at the same time, about the same time you usually wake up. So if you're an early morning person, 6 a.m. or something like that, set it for 6:15. And what you're going to do is it's only going to be for 5 minutes. And for that 5 minutes, you're just going to open up the notes in your phone and you're just going to set an intention for the day.
Oh, I love that.
Just set an intention. Right. So I hope everybody is pulling out their phone. Pull out your phone, 5 minutes
right now.
Set an intention. Yes.
If you're a journal or notebook person, like
write it down. right?
pull out that, right?
That's me.
But
This is
definitely
me.
do it.
Every day is in
I
a book.
love
You know,
it.
get a book. I say I think this is actually a Triumph book. One of the other authors,
There you go.
Dr. Mary Darden, she actually
Mhm.
created this. So get one from her. You know,
Love it.
and yeah, set an intention. I do that I open this up every day in the Triumph
Mhm.
notebook and say, this is my intention for today. And it can be something really small. It does not have to be like this great big crazy thing. You know, it could
Mm.
be something that's really small as well.
I love
So
that. So
those are the
listen,
two ways.
thank you. I have a little question for you from Sylvia Ann Kauso. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly, Sylvia. Latrice, do you find it that leaders find it a little bit scary to unlock the key to the self sometimes, especially if an individual has been on overdrive for a very long time? That's a
Oh,
good one.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I do think that they find it scary, but if they are finding it scary, then they haven't completely defined self yet.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
something different. Like we can't get to, like figuring out anything else or how to get under it until we understand what self means to us. Like, so self
Mhm.
could be, it could be a whole different myriad of things for different people. It could be something that has to do with their religion. It could be with their spirit. It could be with just their mind and their soul and their body. It could be something that's more physical and removing themselves out of something or something. So it could be a combination of those things or one of those things that helps to ground them. But the definition of what that actually means for them is the thing that they have to actually define first. So they know what they're returning to. So
Right.
typically when people are struggling with that from a coaching perspective, we're there. And the thing is that I'm a career coach. I am not a life coach. And I will tell, and I'm definitely not a therapist. So I will tell people, I'd be like, here's something to discuss with your therapist or your life coach, because I'm gonna help you once you figure that out. But but that's not exactly what I do. But I know it's definitely the thing that people struggle with in terms of unlocking something. They have to define that self first.
Yeah.
And I hope that did answer your question.
Yeah. Sylvia says, thanks for picking up my question. Sylvia, of course, we aim to do that and answer as many questions as possible. So,
Yeah,
you're very, very welcome. And so, Latrice, you mentioned we're going to pivot here a little bit to talking about Triumph, because you mentioned Triumph just now.
yes,
Triumph in the
yes.
Trenches. And you contributed to Triumph in the Trenches, Volume 3 is edited and compiled by Ilona Washington. Hey, Ilona.
Hey,
Shout
Lona.
out. And I wrote the foreword for that edition. And so it was very interesting, actually, that you and I somehow ended up in the same edition of that
Of
anthology.
Triumph, right?
Right,
It's because
exactly.
it's because we're married and we're aligned.
It is because we're married. It is because we're married.
Of course we're going to end up in the same volume, right? Of
Of
course,
course.
right.
Now that you say that, yes, absolutely. Meant to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so after like you've been in HR for what, 20, 22 years or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have kept these 5 HR secrets to yourself. You could have gate kept, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, why did you partly answered a little bit of this before, but why did you choose to be transparent, share your insights, and what sense of responsibility did you feel to pull back the curtain, open the gates, and let people
Mm-hmm.
into these secrets?
So I started LeaderKeys in 2020, and what I have learned after coaching hundreds, if I may be in the thousands at this point, but after coaching so many people,
Mm-hmm.
there was trends that definitely came out, which is what influenced the pivot into I really need to coach Black women. And part of that was because not only were these all these gates around career management and career development in the workplace, they were coded in such ways that even a lot of the Black women that I talked to, even though they were like, yeah, I know some of this stuff, or I know some of this, and they didn't actually truly know. And it was very apparent. And it kept being this common thing, is that every time I would talk to someone, and then I didn't actually realize it either. I actually, and again, because I've been in HR, I thought everybody knew a lot of these things. So like, I thought that. And I really thought when, if they were in any kind of people leadership role, that they knew these things. But I also know that there are a lot of sucky people leaders that are out there, and it's because they may know some of these things, but they don't actually understand them. And I think this is the most important part of why I wrote this. They don't accept the accountability for them. And the roles that each one of us play on both sides of each one of these topics. So the topics were very specific. The desire was specific to a broad call out need that all of my data told me was a need. And the third piece is when I hear something over and over and over again, then that means it needs to be addressed on a much higher and broader level than a one-on-one or even a group coaching session could provide. So that's why I said yes, and that's why I wrote it.
Good. And so of those 5 secrets, which one do you think has the power to change someone's career, like right now? Like if I implemented secret number, I don't know, 3, could that change my career right now? Like which one do you think is the one if you had to choose?
Yeah, it's 2. It's I believe it's 2. Hold on, let me make sure it's 2. It's calibration.
Let's do a quick check here. Let's do a quick check.
Let me just make sure. Let me go to the books and go to the yes, 2. It's calibration. Yeah. So calibration. The calibration brief. If you have not read it yet, it is also the only section that is in there that actually has a visual that's included in it. And the reason why I included that visual is because I think it's so important that people actually understand. Here's the thing: everybody assumes, and everyone makes the assumption. Everybody, knows that they're being talked about, but you don't actually understand what that means. Every feeling that you have, they keep giving me all of the work, but none of the credit. Every feeling that you have, it is because you have landed somewhere in that talent calibration conversation in one of those boxes. And there is a box that's specifically the workhorse box. And guess what? You're in it, right? And so I think demystifying the elusive, it's an HR term, 9 box, right? Of this calibration, which is where they go in and they talk about talent and they decide who's ready now, who's not ready at all, who's ready later for everything, promotion, succession, all the other stuff that I talk about, right? If you understand that, then you can become not only the owner of your career, which is, I think, is where almost every talent development program stops, right? Own your career. They say that all the time. You have to become the writer, director, executive producer, the whole production of it. You have to, up and including, and which I think is the one that most people do not remember, you also have to become the staffing director too. You have to choose and select the other people to tell your story. So like if you wrote, a manuscript, you're going to work with the casting director. You're going to work with all of the different people to get all the people in the right places, right? That's what you would do to make sure that show is going to go off without a hitch. Your career is exactly the same way. It is exactly the same way. So that calibration piece, I think, is the most important, but I think it's the one to take action on, because you need to go and understand what is that sounding like in your organization and where are you. When you know that, you've got at least the baseline. You know where to start.
I remember when I first read your chapter, which oh my gosh, well, as you know, I told you several times, I called and screamed, oh my gosh, it's so amazing, right?
All the drafts too. Right.
All the drafts, right, all of it. And I really appreciated that graphic. I mean, appreciated all of it, but that graphic in particular, because of course, I'd heard of calibration. I knew what it was technically. I knew that okay, the powers that be are discussing basically
Mhm.
where everyone is or should be positioned within, whether it is, a group, an
Mhm.
org, or the entire company.
Mhm.
But knowing that is different from seeing it laid out in that chart.
Mhm.
And so, I would definitely
Real.
recommend to all of you who have, for some unknown reason, not yet purchased Triumph
Right.
in the Trenches Volume 3. Purchase it
Mhm.
and read all of the chapters. But for this
Mhm.
particular discussion, make sure to go and read Latrice's chapter, because that definitely, the entire chapter and the part about calibration definitely have the potential to change
Mhm.
your career for the better.
Yeah.
And something I'm I love a good segue, Latrice. And so you mentioned something about, you have to be the, the director and manage the entire production
Mhm.
and all of that. And so, speaking of managing entire productions, you did a TED talk.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
did
Yes.
a TEDx talk, right? And it is called "What
Mhm.
Happens When You Stop Apologizing for Existing." Again,
Yes.
absolutely such a fan, such a fan, such a fan. And so,
Thank you.
how does why did you what inspired you to make that the topic?
Hmm. Um.
Because it had to come. I know you are very like intentional, very strategic, and
Yes.
also very empathetic. So what was
Yes.
happening that made you land on this?
It was a process, but it started
Mhm.
out with the so I have a podcast, season 2 coming out in September, a bit of a plug, but I have a podcast that's called Authentic and Unapologetic Conversations. So
Yes.
it started from there. I knew that was the base. I knew that was where I wanted to start. I also knew that I was going to stay within the framework of clarity voice movement,
Uh-huh.
which is throughout everything, all my work, even the chapter, everything. It's the thorough line. So I knew that that was where I wanted to be. What I didn't know was that I was going to get so personal in that TED
Mhm.
talk,
Mhm.
because I was like, why do I have this passion around authenticity and apology? And so in that soul searching and writing and figuring out what that was going to look like, I realized that it's from way back. This is who how I have developed to be who I am. And that landed me in a super personal place that, I have to be honest, I really struggled with even landing on that being where I was going to go for that TED talk. And it
Mhm.
was scary. And even in the moment of recording, there's a moment in the TED talk that I actually said, I'm deciding in this moment if I'm going to actually say this out loud.
Right, I remember
Because
that
I
part.
was, it was real, it was off script, but I couldn't,
Mhm.
even in that moment, I could feel myself second guessing, freezing, and
Mhm.
thinking, am I really going to be this personal in this TED talk? So ultimately I move forward with it, but like I said, in the preparation of it, there was a whole lot of discussion with family members, with my husband, with my mother, of like figuring out the origin of what makes Latrice, and why do I have such this passion to pour into people. And that meant I'm going to have to open up, be vulnerable, but I'm also, to your point, very actionable. This has to be in a way where I'm giving back and pouring into other people. And that actually, the feedback from the TED talk has been, besides my children and grandchild, one of the proudest moments of my life. It's been one,
Mhm.
I'm the proudest of it. I'm very proud of that TED talk.
Oh, and you should be. It is really good. It is really
Thank
good,
you.
and
Thank
I'm not just saying that because I'm your friend and
you.
apparently we got married. I'm not just saying that for that reason.
Right.
So listen, we are almost at time. I have two more
Yes.
questions for you. One
Okay.
is from the audience, from
Okay.
Daniel Young. Hey Daniel, and thanks for showing up and joining
Hey,
us.
Dan.
So the
Mhm.
final question is: what habits, boundaries, or beliefs help us choose underdrive on purpose when
Mm.
overdrive has become the default?
Yeah. I think
Great
what,
question.
and so I want to start with actually boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I think the setting our boundaries and knowing what are our no's, our no-goes, and our,
Mhm.
and our yeses, right? Of figuring that out and being able to be protective about that, which goes into the habit, right? Of protecting your boundaries, where you say, these are the three things that are the most important to me. And for me, that is time, rest, and how I show up in the world, right? How do I show up, and how does that impact others? Like those are my big things, and my beliefs drive me around to back to those boundaries and back into the habits that every day. That's why the intention setting is so important. The intention setting, and if you really want to kick it up to the next level with a habit that complements that, you'll set a second reminder at night before you go to bed to actually log your wins. Did I set out and achieve what I intended, what my intention was this morning? And sometimes those answers are yes, and sometimes those answers are no, but it's okay. It's an answer. Right. But sometimes just writing that down and reflecting on it later on, you go back and you look at those things, and those are the things that continue to drive your beliefs and your boundaries.
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last question before we sign off.
Before we go. Mm-hmm.
So, what does having space to exhale mean for you right now in this season of navigating overdrive and underdrive and middle drive? Right? Right? It's all of the drives. What does having space to exhale mean to you? What does it look like for you right now?
What it really looks like is prioritization of self. Like that and that one, but that one was very hard for me because I prioritize others so much. I'm a mom, a daughter, a sister, an auntie, I'm all of the things, right? And I take all of those roles really, really seriously. So prioritizing myself and say, oh wait, I'm also just Latrice, right? Is really what has been moving me to purposefully make space to excel. And if a spa day needs to be there in order to make that happen, then I don't say no to those things, right? Spas and naps get yeses from me.
That's it.
that's
drive equals spas and naps. That's the equation.
That is it. That's it. I think it's solid math.
I think it's very solid math.
It's solid math.
Well, Latrice, thanks again, for joining me. You were there with me on season 1, both as a guest and as a producer. So yes. I have to give you your flowers and shout you out and say, folks, I have received many compliments, and thanks to those who have done so, about the podcast and how it is a well-oiled, well-run machine. And I'm going to give Latrice her flowers and say that she helped me set the foundation. Okay. And so everybody who said, wow, your podcast is so well produced, Latrice.
You got to have all that, the fire stuff, the opening, the whole thing, all of that stuff. Yeah.
People were like, wait, you have an intro? Yeah, Latrice.
Of course you do. Of course.
So, thank you so much for being here, for all of your support across the years, for your friendship, for your wifeship, for all of it.
We've married now.
We are. And to everyone who has joined us live and everyone who's joining us on replay, thank you so much for joining me here on Space to Exhale, the podcast. Goodbye for now, and until next time, remember that you deserve time and space to exhale. Bye. Thank you for joining me on Space to Exhale, the podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, follow the show, and leave a review. Every rating, review, comment, and share helps more people discover these conversations about rest, well-being, healing, and living with greater ease. Join me live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, or catch the replay wherever you listen to your podcasts. To stay connected between episodes, visit spacetoexhalebook.com, subscribe to the Gentle Breath newsletter, and explore my award-winning book, Space to Exhale. Until next time, remember, you do not have to earn rest. You do not have to justify your joy. You do not have to prove your worth. You are already worthy of love, worthy of care, and worthy of having time and space to exhale.